I'm joined now by Shadow Resources Minister Susan McDonald, as well as Independent MP Di Lee. Thank you, ladies, both for your time. Susan, I'll start with you. As I pointed out at the top of the show, there seems to be a clear expectation from Trump that if NATO countries can lift their defence spending, Australia can too. Are you concerned that Albanese's stubbornness on this issue will risk our relationship with the US?
Oh, 100%. What we're seeing from Labor is an unwillingness to commit to doing the necessary actions, whether it be in defence spending or even where it is on critical mineral supply, the very materials that are so relevant to our allies in their defence expenditure. So we are, I think, jeopardising the relationship which we have with our most important Western democratic ally, and we're threatening Australia's reputation as a reliable ally and a dependable defence buddy.
Di, as a former child refugee of the Vietnam War, you perhaps know better than most in Parliament what the impacts of war are like in this region. What is your view on defence spending?
Look, you're right there. Hi, Susan, but you're right there, Caroline. The impact of war is really immeasurable, especially when it, families, women, children, and innocent lives are lost in these whole war games. Defence, though, is actually important. I'm not going to go into the debate whether, how that is going to impact our strategic relationship with the US. But one thing I think we do need to look at and explore is the defence spending in the ADF, within our human capabilities. My understanding is that, ADF forces, in the 1980s was more than what we have today in 2025. So how do we build the capabilities of human, we have so many people here in Australia that we could train, young people that we could recruit into the Defence Force to build their capacity in order to play that role in the future. And I think that's very important to invest in the human capabilities that we have. And of course, technology, and of course, look at how technology, as we know, technology and AI is continuously changing so rapidly, that how are we making sure that we are on track to keep track with what's happening, the changes in technology and AI. So that's very critical from that sense, from my perspective, in terms of defence spending.
Yeah, no, those are good points. I want to move on to what happened when the US struck Iran. It's also been revealed that the Albanese government actually sought legal advice on whether the strikes were in fact lawful. Finance Minister Katie Gallagher spoke on this issue, but she didn't say where the government stood on that matter.
Has advice been sought as to whether these military actions are legal under international law?
Look, obviously advice has been sought by, in government, as we are working through some of these issues, we get a whole lot of advice across the government.
Susan, the government ultimately backed the strikes, but it did take them 24 hours to say anything. Was it necessary to wait for the advice here?
Well, I think the second question is, did they seek advice after the Hamas attack on Israel? Yes. Did they seek advice after the Chinese warships circled Australia without any communications? This seems to me a government that's very willing to pick and choose its friends. And the point I made before about, an important Western democracy ally like the US, the Albanese government's willing to try and second guess and seek legal advice on its actions, on taking action against a country that was developing enriched uranium, working towards nuclear weapons outside of the international framework that's been agreed, and for a country that is very vocal in its determination to see the end of Western democracy. So, I think that it's intriguing to me that Labor would choose to get legal advice on this matter, but has still failed to properly call out some of those other actions, like the attack on Israel on the 7th of October, or indeed the Chinese entering to circumnavigate Australia's waters. So, this is very inconsistent and again undermines our reputation as a dependable ally.
Di, Susan's right, isn't she? I mean, after October 7, we saw almost this immediate response from Penny Wong urging restraint from Israel, putting the onus almost on Israel there. It was extraordinary. But I know you don't want to enter the debate about our relationship with the US, but surely 24 hours is too long for the government to respond here.
Look, I suppose all governments take legal advice, don't they? It's the government of the day, the decision of when they take that legal advice. But, I probably won't enter into the debate of, did they take it, quickly enough or not. They did take legal advice at the end of the day. But I think, look, from my perspective, I think all Australians have to be very mindful and careful because we don't want, sending people off to wars. I just think that's something we have to be very careful of as well. And I'm speaking from lived experience here. I think that, and I'm sure Australians have already been through the Vietnam War and the lives, the innocent lives, and the families that have been impacted by those who went into Vietnam to fight the war there.
I don't think in this case the question was obviously whether to send troops or anything, just expressing support for it. But I do take your point. I think this is something both of you will have a strong view on, moving onto the Liberal Party. And it could be on the brink of extinction because of its women problem. That's at least according to outgoing Senator Linda Reynolds, who has authored the party's gender review. The number of Liberal women in Parliament has hit a 30-year low. Just 28 lower house MPs in the party are women. Susan, you're obviously a woman. You're in the Liberal National Party. Do you agree with this assessment? Is the party on the brink of extinction?
Oh, well, I think any reports of the Liberal Party's demise are premature. I do think, though, that we should think about what diversity looks like. I think it wears many faces. I'm fortunate to serve with somebody of Di's capacity, and that is terrific. Di also brings other experiences that are quite unique to the Parliament. Labor has embraced quotas for female diversity, but that's also seen a flooding in the Senate of lawyers and shop stewards. I think if Australians could see the lack of diversity in discussion by the Labor Party, that would concern them. Gender is only one portion of it.
So would you support gender quotas quickly, Susan?
No, I don't, because I'm very grateful to be in a position that I know I have earned my place as an accountant, as a butcher, as a mother, as a woman, a whole bunch of things. And at the last election, we took a charter boat operator, we took a paramedic, we took a farmer and a veteran to the election just from North Queensland alone. I think that's the kind of diversity that will prove us well, stand us in good stead as we seek to form government for the future.
Yeah, that's it.
Can I say...
Di, I'd love to get your view, because you're not part of a party, you're an independent, of course, and you got there on your own strengths. What's your view on quotas?
Look, I think we should set a target. I mean, parties should set a target to achieve a certain target, but I think quota can limit. It could just be, for me, it could be quite tokenistic, but that's just my personal perspective. But I think what's important, what we're missing here and what we hear in the media, I think what we need to see is a strong opposition. And I think people are distracted that, look, I think the Liberal Party, probably it's about the lack of policies putting forward to show Middle Australia what they stand for and what they've been fighting for. And I think it's so important to drill down to the policies that will support Middle Australians. And because, you can't just look after certain sections of the community of the country and not the mums and dads and the small business that are propping up our country. It's so critical that I think let's not listen to the media talking about women issues. Yes, of course, women is part of the conversation. Diversity, cultural diversity is part of the conversation. Multicultural Australia is part of the conversation. Small business is part of the conversation. Mums and dads is part of the conversation. Middle Australia is part of the conversation. So it's a real diverse, policies that I think I really urge the Liberal and National Party to focus on and not get distracted by just one single issue, and take everybody into that, because sorry, Susan, you guys have to really nut out some kind of, we need a strong opposition.
We've got to go to a break, but it's such a good point. I think we do get distracted quite often with this women's problem, whereas policy needs to be the main game here. Susan, Di, thank you so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it.